Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Chapalang Film Podcast. I'm your host, Sepeng. We also have co-host and film director, Jonathan Chu. Our guest today is Raihan Halim. He's a film director who has made films such as the wrestling comedy Banting and most recently, the Malaysian-Singapore romantic comedy La Luna. Welcome to the pod, Raihan.
Hello guys, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome,
Thank you
Raihan.
so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And as I was saying before we opened this podcast, like I really enjoyed La Luna, and we also to prepare for this podcast, we also went back to watch Banting. So
Thank you.
it's a huge jump from Banting to La Luna.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So before we get into both of these films, I think just for the benefit of the audience who might not be familiar with who you are or your work as a film director, maybe you could just quickly introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. I'm Raihan. I'm one of those lucky people, I would dare say lucky, because I've known that I wanted to be a filmmaker since I was in secondary 2. So I would say that I'm practically living the dream of my 14-year-old self. Love films, love watching TV. I grew up with a lot of pop culture. Went to film media studies to study film, and slowly make my way to becoming a scriptwriter for television, opening up my own company, and eventually started making films. So it's, like I said, it's a dream come true, and I'm a very lucky person for it.
What made you fall in love with films at the age of 14? Was it a particular film that you watched?
Yes, and I'm going to say this, and I'm quite ashamed to say, but still, I'm half ashamed to say this. I watched Batman Forever, which is the one with Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer with the
Oh
bat
my god!
nipples.
Yeah,
Yes.
I totally remember that film.
Yes.
It has a big part in my childhood also.
Really? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
something. Yeah, because I remember watching that because I thought, back then sequels are not like guaranteed, right? So after you watch Batman Returns and you suddenly there's no news for a while, and the next thing I saw was this trailer for Batman and the word forever. I still remember the logo, which is the bat logo with a question mark.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so cool, and
Yeah.
before the movie came out, I told myself I want to direct a Batman film.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I got into filmmaking actually. And at that time I had a big book of encyclopedia. Went to check about film and start learning about Gene Kelly, what Oscars are, what Academy Awards are, and slowly I think the journey started from there.
Yeah. Wow, it's funny you said that because at 6 years old, I can that film release and I still have. Now I'm 35, right? I still have that those vague memories of when that film released, the promo,
Yes.
the Happy Meal, the toys, the merchandise. It was a huge movement. I totally remember.
Every year back then, every time a Batman movie appears, you'll see the Batman logo everywhere. Right? So now it's like super saturated with superheroes, but back then it's super rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to be ashamed about because that film was also a huge part of my childhood alongside Tim Burton's Batman. Yeah.
Yes.
I can still remember Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever. She was stunning in that film.
Yep.
Yes. And I will say this, I watched it again recently. It seems like, sometimes when you go back and watch your childhood movies, right? I mean, there are things that I'm quite ashamed of it. Like right now, the bat nipples make no sense at all, right? And Jim Carrey was unhinged. But actually, the film is actually quite deep. It's really about, the theme of it is really about being two-faced, Batman versus Bruce Wayne, Edward Nygma versus Riddler. And then the villain is, of course, Two-Face himself, right? So thematically, it was pretty amazing from the standpoint of, as a writer, watching it's pretty damn cool, actually. So, yeah, I mean, it still sticks, but again, the bat nipples just make no sense. Yeah.
How do you think about, because the Riddler at the time was portrayed by Jim Carrey, and it was recently portrayed by, who's the guy's name?
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano.
Yeah.
What do you think of both their portrayal?
It's totally different thing. I think when Joel Schumacher made Batman Forever, he was like a neo-goth thing. He was like a neon goth. And Jim Carrey's performance was perfect for that version.
Yep.
Right? And Paul Dano's version is literally a film noir. I mean, the first time, when I watched The Batman in the cinema, and I think this is during COVID, the moment I heard the voiceover by Robert Pattinson, I'm like, holy crap, this is like film noir. This is like a totally different vibe entirely, which is cool, which is again something that I admire, and something I keep talking to people about is that different filmmakers have different point of views. You can have the same character, which is Batman. Tim Burton's, Nolan's, Joel Schumacher, and Matt Reeves, they have totally different versions of Batman, right? So they are extremely unique, which is why I feel that in Singapore, the best part is that only Anthony Chen can make Ilo Ilo. Only Jun Feng can make Apprentice. Only Raihan can make La Luna. So it's cool to actually see a certain voice, and I feel that's something that's important for our industry actually.
Yeah, for sure. And even Two-Face portrayal in Nolan's film and Two-Face in Schumacher's film, very different.
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say that there's no one who can think of the idea of, Robin go and rescue the girl, and then he has to fight this, I don't know what gang of criminals. They're all like wearing this glow-in-the-dark highlighter. Oh my God.
Exactly.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I totally still remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very Tim Burton.
What I remember from Batman Forever was this cool line when Alfred calls Batman.
That thing just came back to me like
I think...
sorry, that's Schumacher.
Yeah. Alfred calls Bruce Wayne, who's doing a therapy, and he says, "Sir, Master Grayson took the car." And then Bruce Wayne say, "The Ferrari? No, sir, the other car." Say, "The Maserati? No, sir, the other car." And then you cut to the Batmobile, and I thought, wow, that was so cool. Just good writing. It's pretty good writing.
Yeah, nice. And so you discovered and fell in love with film at 14. When did you actually get started with directing?
Directing was much later. I think right after Army, I made my first short film. And I only made a short film so that I can show people that I could direct. So that was like probably when I was like 22, 23, probably. I think 2004, 2005. That's where I started making films. But by then I realized that although I love directing, I prefer writing. So I always feel that I'm a writer first before being a director.
What was the short film about at that point of time?
It's called Sunat. It's basically about circumcision. I think if you want to see the graduation of my films, if you see Sunat, Banting, and La Luna, you can see the total graduation of it. And I think if you want to talk about humor, what I love and all that, it all began from Sunat actually.
Right. Cool.
Right. Yeah, maybe we can start there, right? You mentioned humor. Like across your films, I think I noticed two broad similarities. The first one is humor. And the second one is you seem to use film as a medium to explore very Malay Muslim issues, especially when it comes to religion. Yeah, so we can start with humor, right? How do you think about humor when it comes to film? There's many different types of humor. There is more slapstick. There is like wordplay kind of humor. So maybe you can talk about the use of humor in your short film and how that slowly progressed.
I think humor is important for certain stories. Somebody asked this question about La Luna. It could be a drama, but it'll be a bit too heavy. I just think that there's no gateway. There's no way into the story if it's not a comedy. So I always felt humor is important. But if I have a sense of humor, it will be literally influenced by a lot of American pop culture, actually. So literally, growing up watching the Frasiers and Everybody Loves Raymond, the humor comes from that. And I like using cuts to sell humor, and not necessarily through jokes. So the smash cuts, juxtaposing from one scene to another. So that's something that I learned literally by watching a lot of American films, actually. More so than any other genre, and any other country's films, is definitely Hollywood.
Okay, I think we can speak about Banting,
Sure.
being your first feature film. How did Banting come about?
All right. I'll go a bit slightly earlier. So what happens is that when I was in film school, I mean, the films that, I mean, let's not talk about Batman or Transformers or whatever, the films that I was very inspired by were shockingly ugly films.
Right.
So I really, really love Wedding Banquet. Wedding Banquet made me cry. I literally watched it again, still made me cry. Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, love it, right? And I find that I am very skewed to a lot of Chinese films or Chinese TV shows. I am very proud to say I didn't grow up watching a lot of Malay drama. I grew up watching a lot of Chinese dramas. I was from a Catholic school, a lot of non-Malay friends. So and not just because you're here. The thing that made me love watching television when I was young was Unbeatables. So I watched it recently. Your dad was so damn young. I don't know how he was playing Lee Nansing's father.
Oh my god! It's so weird because he was 38 at that point.
Exactly, right?
Zoe Tay is 23. It's only like 15 years difference, and it worked.
I watched it recently. I just glanced at it and I was like, he's so young. Chen Shucheng looks so young. How the heck was he playing dads to like Lim Nansing and Zoe Tay? But I mean, segueing from that, it's like I really love watching a lot of Chinese projects, and I started writing a lot of stories with a lot of Chinese characters. Then a friend of mine say, why are you not making film about your own race, about your own culture? And that kind of triggered something in me, which is why I wrote Sunat and eventually started making Banting, because I just felt that there has to be someone to be making this film, right? And that's Malay films. And that's how I wanted, and that's the journey, that's how I started the journey with Banting actually. Wanting to tell a story about a Malay girl, somebody I recognize, but still being in Singapore, I mean, a metropolitan country like ours here.
Right. And how did you come up with the idea? I can see the influence of Ang Lee now that you have talked about it. The idea of family and conservatism contrasting with something like wrestling, which is more like popular mass culture. How did you come up with these two things? Were you like personally a fan of wrestling?
Love wrestling. Love wrestling.
Yeah, I love wrestling as well.
Love wrestling when I was growing up, right? And it didn't start with being with wrestling first. I actually wanted to tell a story about a Tudong girl doing rock and roll, doing rock. And a friend of mine said, why not wrestling, right? And it just triggered like, oh my god, that makes total sense, right? And you're talking about like juxtaposing, which is always seen as something that is supposed to trap you, versus wrestling, which is total self-expression.
Yeah.
And I just felt that those two worlds could be, the fact that these two totally different worlds could make a pretty good film, and that's how it started actually.
Right. Yeah, and at that point of time, being in 2014, when you made the film, I think it was also a very interesting time in the film landscape, because HD has been around in the industry at that point of time. But it's also, in a sense, one of the early years as well. So everyone's kind of figuring out digital filmmaking, so to speak. How was it like getting the film made, both on a creative level and, financially trying to put all the resources together at that point of time?
Creatively, I'll talk about the creative aspect first. The journey for Banting was really, really tough for me, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been doing TV for the longest time. Ever since I left film school, I didn't do any films. I only did one short film, which is Sunat, and I've been making TV. So the journey to make a film is something that is so damn tough, and I had a conversation with Tianjin at that time, and he said that the best thing about TV directors is that we are damn fast. The worst thing about being a TV director is we are damn fast, which means that we don't really necessarily care about visuals, because we are always on a deadline. We are always like moving. So if I want a red curtain, right, and I come to set and it is maroon, I'll be like, sure, let's shoot it. But in a film, it's like a totally different thing. You get me the damn red curtain, right, because it's in the script. We've discussed this. So creatively, it was very hard. And if you're saying that there's a huge jump between Banting to La Luna, it's simply because I think I was a TV director when I was making Banting. So the shots were not as interesting. I didn't have a visual sense. I think the worst thing about Banting, I'm just going to be we are talking full of candor here, right? I can talk about my film in that sense. But the thing is, when I watched Banting again, it felt like a script writer trying to direct. I directed the script. There was no elevation from the script to a visual medium as film.
Yeah.
So that's how, and that was the biggest mistake I made doing that. But at the same time, we didn't know how to make a film. We learned how to make a film by making a film. And it was tough every single day. And because there are things that I've never understood. So we had this key grip called Malik. Malik is the super
Oh,
key grip,
yes, of course, the best.
right? The best. So
Yeah.
I've been wanting to work with this guy. So I came to set, I think the first 2-3 days of shoot, Malik didn't do anything. He was just sitting at a corner. So I finally asked my DP, Jason Tai, I asked, why is Malik not doing anything? And then he says, because you have no dolly shots. I'm like, what? That guy is here just to pull. I say, yes. And I'm like, I didn't know that. You see, again, I learned how to make a film
Right.
when I was making a film. And it's the same thing with a lot of the aspects of it, like the writing, the casting, the editing, the release. It's all something that I learned. That was my film school, I would say. That was really a re-education.
Yeah.
On the business aspect of it, it is not cheap. I think we did it on our own before MM2 came in to release it. And the thing is that it was very tough. I think we struggled to pay off everyone. I think it took us about a year of doing more TV projects to finally get everything out. So it was tough, but again, it's something that something we needed to go through. I think you do not grow by having very easy way out. You really grow by obstacles, and I think Banting was one of the biggest obstacles that we ever faced, and we are much better having emerged from that cave. Yep.
Right. I think while watching Banting, there are a few elements that I felt that it was still uniquely your touch, that even in your recent films or projects, you kind of carry on using the kind of flourishes like the montages at the start where you introduce the characters, right? The childhood scenes and all that. And I remember specifically because the characters, they work in a cafe, right? And then they work with the boss who has a very specific way of speaking, making things difficult for them. Yep. So I felt like those were things that really had a lasting impact, I'm just curious, what inspired you to make like small little decisions, for example, like the acting choices of the guy in the cafe, or like even you casted Abigail as one of the wrestlers as well. Yep. Like what were some of the creative inspirations behind?
I see. I do not believe in the director being the author of the whole. I don't really totally believe in the author theory. So when I cast, say, Jimmy T, or I cast Izian, who was playing the lead in Banting, they come in with a certain set of ideas. And I want that. The last thing I want is for the actors to be automatons where they are literally doing exactly what I want them to do. Yep. I really welcome. I think I want to believe I'm a better filmmaker now because I listen to people and I filter things out when I have to. And so a lot of the choices that, if you love it, is literally coming from them. It's not necessarily from me. I think it's something that when I hear it, I think it's great. It fits with the universe that we have created for the film, and it's there. How Abigail talks, the Robert, the guy who acted as the manager, it's the same thing. It's really about having the need to create a safe space for us to work and to be open enough to make little mistakes, and if you can afford it. And sometimes, magic happens, and I think that's what I was very lucky about with La Luna and Banting, actually.
Right. Just one last question before we speak about La Luna next. I think the key cornerstone of the film is definitely the wrestling scenes. How was the whole experience with choreographing action and all that? Was it like the first time you were dealing with action? And what were some of the difficulties behind that?
yes, it was the first time I had. I mean, I love wrestling. I didn't know that I would be making a wrestling film one day. But the beautiful thing about that is that I get really good choreographers to help me choreograph the wrestling scenes. So that was pretty fun. The other thing that I learned that I should not do, some directors they say that I must know how the characters feel, so they decide to do it. So I try doing a wrestling one. So there's this thing called a bump where you have to learn how to fall. Right? Made the damn stupid mistake of doing it, and my head hits the ground, and I'm like, holy crap! It was so bad. I think it was bad. I had like a headache for like a day or two, and then what's the biggest what happened was that I began to sympathize with the actors. So even though they're not giving me what I have in my head, but I know the pain, I'm like, I think it's okay. Let's fix it and edit. So that's one of the bad things. I mean, it's a good thing that you sympathize with actors, but as a filmmaker, it should be invisible to you. I feel, right? But it's also interesting how you tell me talking about it again. We have this like a very bad 50 Shades of Grey. We have a safe word on set. So because when you're doing wrestling, everybody looks like they're in pain, but we do not know when they are really in pain. So we have a safe word, and it's called squirrel. So until someone shouts squirrel, then we know that it's really for real. So the medics will come in. So we have a couple of squirrel moments. I think Ijan got slammed at one point. I think got choke slammed, and he's like squirrel, 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 and then we like cut, and all the medics come in. But it was fun. It was fun, and they all have grown much older now. I mean, they're all mothers now, and again, watching it again and talking to you guys about it just bring back so much memories.
Yeah. So you released Banting in 2014, and your next film, like quote unquote next film, La Luna, is released last year. But we also know that in between you made a horror film.
That's right.
Ibu, which is not yet released, but I heard it's coming out soon. Do you want to speak a little about that before we go and talk about La Luna?
Ibu was a long time coming. I think I think before we even ended filming Banting, we already started working on Ibu at least a bit, and it was a long journey. I mean, it's still a long journey because it's not out. We are still working on the release, so it was a long journey for us. And again, we were still learning, and and I think this year will be the 5th year of anniversary when we first filmed it. But it's done, and we are working on something to get it released either this year or early next year.
Nice. Can you share more about what you learned from Ibu? Because as we were talking about before the show started, there's a huge jump in your craft from Banting to La Luna, and I think maybe Ibu has got something to do with it. So I'm just curious, like what did you learn from Ibu that allowed you to take your craft from Banting to La Luna?
Okay, I have to credit one person, and that person is James here. James here is a very good DP. And the thing about James is that he will look at a script and he'll translate words into visuals. So there are things that I'm so used to. In TV, it's always about coverage, right? So there's white shot, MS, MCU. But James do not see it that way. James is really trying to put a cinematic language to it. So he'll always try to combine shots, and he's so stubborn as a DP, right? Even though I like a certain shot, he's like, if he don't buy it, he refused to move on, right? And it will always be better. Everything that James comes up with that is different from what I have is always better. And that's what I learned from James here, is that film is really a visual language. I mean, it's a visual medium. It's really about not shooting what you have on the script. It's really about how you translate words into visuals, colors, makeup, hair. So he taught me how to become a better director. So if there is a growth between Banting to La Luna, it will be because of Ibu and because of James here.
Yeah, nice. I went to school with James. He did 1 year at LaSalle, the
Really?
final year.
Nice.
Yeah, so he's a great DP.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so going to La Luna, how did that all get started?
La Luna. All right. La Luna, the idea for La Luna came from... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and maybe for those who haven't seen La Luna, if you could briefly describe, what is it about?
Sure. So La Luna, the idea for La Luna was about wanting to make a slightly cheeky film, and the idea of of a very religious small little town versus a La Senza or a Victoria's Secret, right? And I just thought it's a funny thing, and it's literally a growth from Banting. If Banting is really about tudong versus wrestling, La Luna is really about lingerie versus really dictatorship and totalitarian society. And I just thought it was really a fun idea. And it was literally just a joke, a small little idea that we thought about. And it was until we had a flight delay in Doha. And I told my producers that I think there's a way to tell this story about the Muslim society through this lingerie shop. And my producer said that you want to make this film, you cannot shoot it in Doha, you must set it in a Malay kampong because you do not understand people in Doha. You do not understand the subtleties of it. You have to set it in a Malay kampong. And it took a while for me to okay, you know what? I think I can do it. And eventually we did. So it was a very interesting experience because it was it's a really long journey. I think we pitched to SFC thrice, I would say. The first iteration, we were late by 3 minutes, so it was not accepted. The second one was we went with a producer who was extremely dodgy, and thank God SFC realized that, and we didn't go ahead with it. And eventually with Clover, Mr. Limtek came, and we decided to work on it together. And I think by then I have grown up, and I thought I was a better filmmaker. So I'm glad that it took that long to get.
Why did you think Lim Teck from Clover was interested to produce the film?
To be honest, he has never really given me a straight answer. But, it was really a call out of the blue. We gave up on the project. The moment we lost the project, we gave up on it. I moved on, and he called for a meeting. I still remember that we were meeting in East Coast, and he seems interested. And I'm like, to me, it just didn't feel real at all. Until the day we sit down for the Zoom pitch. And then I realized, yeah, we are working together. But I don't know, I think it's just the fact that maybe he has dabbled with a lot of films in Malaysia and seeing that there is a missing, there's a missing part of Malaysian films that they have not been making these kind of films for a while. Maybe that's why.
Right. Can you talk a bit about the development and the writing of the film?
Sure.
Yeah, I think because you mentioned just now you had this rough idea to explore this particular issue, and I'm not sure if you have some Malaysian roots, but how familiar were you with Malaysian society, or is it pretty similar to Singapore? And what kind of research did you do? Yeah.
All right. My late grandpa was from Malacca, so I do go back to Kampong when I was young, but I've not gone back in a very, very long time. But I do know Malaysia. So, but it's interesting because the first iteration of La Luna felt like it was Raihan trying to make a Hollywood film. The format is really a Hollywood romantic comedy. It's really about a woman. It really, if I'm pitching it to you right now, you'll think that a Reese Witherspoon or Isla Fisher could be this movie. It's really about a girl from the city who has lingerie shop got, she got broken down, is gone, and she has all this lingerie, and she travels, and the van breaks down, so she ends up in a small little town, and she sets up La Luna there, and which is basically the format of Doc Hollywood, the format for Cars, so and it's all there. Came up with a story. I thought it was cool. I wasn't looking to make anything heavy. I just thought it's just a sweet romantic comedy. Met a female producer in Malaysia, and she asked me this simple question: if this film is about women, why are you directing it?
Good question.
Yeah, and I was really taken aback. I was so offended. I was like, but this film is not about a woman. It's about Islam. It's about Muslims. But it kind of hit me hard. I really couldn't stop thinking about it for the longest time. And then I told myself, but I love the story. I have all these scenes. How do I change this storyline? And by then, the Me Too movement came in, and we are talking about representation, and I understand why a female should be directing that. And then I realized, what if we keep the exact same storyline, but just change the point of view of the story? So instead of a story about a woman who goes into a town and changed it, the story will be about a town that is so strict, and one day a woman comes in and the town changes. So the point of view changed, right? So instead of starting in the city, we are literally all in the kampong from the start. And then I thought, if I'm going to write this, I have to write it from a point of view that I can totally understand, I can totally defend and get behind. And I wrote him as a 42, 41-year-old man.
Right.
You know, and he has a daughter who is quite grown up. The relationship is exactly like me and my sister. So every time when someone challenges me, I'll be like, I can answer it very clearly because I'm being truthful. I'm not being fake. Everything in the film that we experience through this character is like how I would experience it if I'm going through that myself. You know, the stories about change. You know, the character for Salihin, the cop. He probably don't understand the whole pronoun thing going on. You know, he don't understand need to. He doesn't understand a lot of things. And I think I'm still learning, and the character himself is learning. So whenever people talk to me about the feminism aspect of it, I'll be like, I'm not so sure whether I can talk about it. I can tell it from my point of view, but I don't think I can be the spokesperson for it because I'm still at the end of the day a man, right? And it's been very helpful. And the thing that I learned best about La Luna is really writing about what you know and really trying from an honest point of view so that you do not have to create and lie when you're telling a story.
Right. What was the toughest part when it came to writing the script? Was it trying to understand the more quote-unquote feminine aspect of the film in terms of female sexuality and the insecurities that comes with the female body?
I don't think the film went there. I think it's really, I think the best way for me to describe it, people ask me how do I think about all those cheeky scenes, and I'm like, it's really like walking in on your parents doing it. I'll keep telling them that. It's really weird and horrifying, but yet it's funny at the same time in retrospect. So I try to write it from their point of view. So you rarely see them doing anything. I literally write it from somebody witnessing it, right? And again, you know, I think the hardest part, believe it or not, writing La Luna was, I think the heavy writing was written during COVID. And the hardest part is the fact that you cannot get out of the country to go to a kampong somewhere and get the vibe. So that was very, very tough because I was writing it for this place that doesn't exist.
Right.
And I couldn't see it. So you know what? You would not believe what I depended on. I depended on watching a lot of drone footages from kampongs. And we do recce's. I literally will see the drone shot and I'll go to Google Maps and I try to find the exact road, you know. So that was tough, writing geographically, because I could not go. Because right now, whenever I'm working on something, I'll travel to that place and try to get a vibe of it. But I couldn't do that with La Luna, which is why I think one of the big complaints that I got from Malaysians is that they do not recognize the place. They feel that it's fake. It feels like someone from Singapore who created it. And I'm like, yeah, it is. That's the reason why it's called Kampung Beras Basah, because it doesn't exist. And we had to create it, you know. So and that's why,
But I guess Singaporeans probably didn't have much of a complaint for that.
No. The geography aspect is not. They don't. In fact, actually, the Malaysians, the thing that I learned about La Luna at the end of the day is really they go for authenticity more than anything else. So they didn't enjoy the things that we literally create for the film. You know, the way they talk, you know, all these things. But they do enjoy authentic things. You know, the relationship between father and daughter, the relationship with the husband and wife. And again, I'm still evolving as a filmmaker, and it's just about learning about the audience and the people.
Right.
Yep. When you were writing some of the jokes, did you, maybe for reasons of wanting to keep the film more PG, tone down the riskiness of some of the jokes, or that didn't matter at all?
Actually, you would not believe this. We only had 2 notes for censorship. One is I think the character said, if you do this, I'm gonna stuff this pencil up your ass. We have to cancel that. We cannot say ass, we have to change to nose. The other one, believe it or not, is literally an off-screen sex sounds. That's all. So I shot exactly what I wrote. And because for me, the thing is, I think it would be very awkward to write sex scenes. I do not want to shoot sex scenes. I have shot a kissing scene before. It's the most weird thing to shout. I think motang, it's horrifying, So I do not want to do that at all. So I wrote it to be as clean as possible. I literally leave it to the imagination of the audience to fill up
the idea is there, Ken, already.
Exactly. It's like watching I give you an example like Seven. Seven taught me a lot. If you think about the movie Seven, you would not believe how there is you do not see anyone get killed. It's always posed. And they do not show it, yet you get to put these things in your head and you realize how violent it is. I think the guy was wearing this sexual contraption and he was, he killed a girl. But you never see that at all. It's literally one shot of that thing and you just piece it up in your head. And I thought that was way, way cooler than to actually show things. And again, it's easier to shoot and it's way funnier.
Yeah. Can you talk about the look of the film and how you came about to it? I think that is a huge difference, right? When it came to the cinematic look from Banting and La Luna. La Luna looks like film. I think a lot of it is because of this cinemascope look, and the production design is so well done.
Yes.
Could you talk about how you went about with the visual design of the film?
Sure. I mean, for me and Sophia and my DP, we work on TV quite a bit. So we knew that we have to open up. So I am always very open with my DPs. I keep telling them that I'm so bad with cameras, I couldn't tell the difference between an f-stop and a bus stop. So they have to choose it for me. If a DP asks me, what kind of lens you want? What kind of flare? I'm like, I don't know. What looks good, man? And I do not, until today, I still do not want to learn too much about the camera. I do not want to be the DP, the director comes in and say, let's use a 35, I do not want that. I do not want to do that. I want to leave it to them. And Sofian, what happens is that he comes with his own ideas about it. I showed him some films that I thought would be a very good touchstone for La Luna. One of them is this movie called The Man Who Saved the World, which is a Malaysian film by Liu Sing Tat. And The Teacher's Diary, which is a Thai film. And he's like, yeah. And he totally didn't shoot whatever I wanted him to shoot. He totally came in with his own point of view. He came and what happened was that the reason why it didn't work is because he knows that the vibe is totally different. So we found a palette when we came to Kuala Kangsar. When we went to Kuala Kangsar for a recce, and you see this whole place and you realize, you know what, we should shoot this as is. Do not, try to mimic anything close to, that's why when we were doing La Luna, there were no Hollywood references at all. All the film references were Asian films. The closest was like one film, I think, Sun or Dear X. That was one of the examples. But everything else were Asian films, Indonesian and Malaysian films. And I think the one thing that I learned with La Luna I saw is that how wardrobe, cinematography, makeup, art is really one discipline, right? That is really totally dependent on each other. My art director is Min Muhammad. She's based in Malaysia. And the thing about all three of us, me, Yan, and Min, was that we have never really done a film like that before. For Yan, it was his first film. So when we went to recce, and the thing is that what I felt was very good was that when I talked to Min, my art director, and I asked her, how do you feel? And she's like, she's excited but very scared. And I said, oh, good. So I'm not alone, right? So there was this fear in it. So which is why we are even more prepared, right? But for the visual look of it, seriously, I'm telling you, you plonk a camera in Kuala Kangsar, you point any direction, it's a great shot. In fact, on our way to set, every single morning on our way to set, we will have to stop 2-3 times because my producer say, let's take a photo here. It is just so damn beautiful. And that's the thing. And I feel that I didn't enjoy traveling when I was younger. Really didn't enjoy it. So what I understand of the world is Singapore, right? And then suddenly you're transported out to not even Kuala Lumpur. It's like 3 hours away from Kuala Lumpur. Right, and you start seeing things that you never see before. Mist on the mountains. These are things that I thought exist in the screensavers, right? And it looks so great. So our discipline was literally to capture what we see on screen as much as possible, and be truthful, be authentic to the location.
But by the way, Sofyan is my friend from FSV.
FSV,
actually.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
told me.
We studied together. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like our big brother.
Correct. Because he went to
Yeah.
army first, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yeah.
Can you talk about?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I think just curious. Can you talk about the casting of the film? I think the two lead actors, Shahizi Sam and Sharifa Amani,
Yep.
And also
Wan Hanafi Su.
Wan Hanafi Su. Yeah.
Okay. This is the Trinity. I call it the Trinity for the film. I met Sharifa Amani in 2018 before we even started writing the film. I told her that I want her to act in the film. And she asked me a very good question. She asked, why me? I was like, holy crap, I'm offering you a job and you're asking me why me, right? But I told her that, it's because she's quite rebellious. And I felt that it's something that could be interesting. What I didn't know was that she has been playing the exact same kind of role for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I met Sam. I met him in KL, and what I told him is that he was coming off like Police Evo 3, if I'm not wrong. So he was a big action star already. But he has always been a very good actor, very dedicated actor. And I told him that you have not done films like this for the longest time, so why not try to do something different? And he loves that. Sam is a chameleon more than anything else. So he's like literally, he loves the idea that he's going to do comedy again, which he felt he didn't do well when he was younger. Now, the thing is, I have not fully secured Sharifa Amani. But when I went to Sam, I said, oh, we secured Sharifa Amani already. And he's on. And then when I met Wan Hanafi Su, I told him that Shahizi Sam and Sharifa Amani are on, but they're not on the project yet. So I'm literally like hooking them, using this word, this Hollywood term, that we have them attached, right? And that's how we got the first three. And the moment we got the first three, everybody else falls into place. And believe it or not, really, really shocking to me that we really got a lot of people that we really wanted as a first choice. I mean, the hardest to cast was Namron and Farah Ahmad. They played the sexy couple. So hard. So hard, because we knew that it was going to be a funny subplot to the film. So we went to a lot of comedians, and they are very reticent about playing a role like that. And then eventually we realized, oh my God, we have made a big mistake. By trying to cast comedians, they are going to play it funny. They're not going to play it truthful. They're going to play it for laughs. But Namron and Farah Ahmad comes in from a very, very serious acting standpoint. It is not funny until they're on screen. Because before that, the preparation, the things that they do, I'm going to be touching here, okay? You're right? Okay, then you're going to push me here. So there's all this choreography that they have, the trust that they have, because they have worked together before. And there was nothing funny about that at all. It was just pure acting. And then they appear on screen and it's just funny. We were doing a lot of speed takes because it was so funny, but the process of it, that's why I learned that, comedy is not easy. It really comes from the crafts and the years of training to get where you are. So the casting was the most fun, I would say, about La Luna, and meeting all these stars. It still shocked me until today. And it's not full humility when I say that. And I watch it, I'm still stunned by how we got to get all the cast. And I think it's a great testament of the producers managing to work the schedule and fees to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, before I watched La Luna, I watched Tiger Stripes, and Sam had a small role, but a great role. He stole the.
Yes,
it's also another film set in a kampong, and you see two completely different portrayals.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, he don't like to do the same things twice. So again, a chameleon, and I think the jump from Tiger Stripes to that, and the coolest thing also for Tiger Stripes is that we share the same art director. So not just Sam, Min did Tiger Stripes as well. So it was pretty cool that we have something in common between the two films.
Right. Talk to us about working with Wan Hanafi Su. A lot of Singaporeans know him because of his epic role in Apprentice.
Yes.
That was a great role that he did. Correct. Tell us how you got him interested in the role, and what was it like working with him? All right.
I have to give a shout out to Jun Feng here, because when I was writing Wan Hanafi's role in La Luna, I kept watching Apprentice. because I was just trying to see, how his presence is like, how he's like. So it kind of like affected the writing process for that character. We didn't get to meet because again it's COVID, so I only managed to do a Zoom session with him once, and told him how much I love him in Apprentice. He signed on based on literal. I mean, to be really, really honest, he signed on basically that Sharifah Amani and Sam was on board. So I think he got a script, but he didn't get to read it yet. But he's on board, knowing the concept, the premise. Working with him was a interesting challenge. Again, Sophian and myself, we come from TV. So on our second day of shoot, we were shooting this scene, and it looked like the rain was coming. So we were shooting very fast. And Wan Hanafi Su was like going up to Yan, and he's like, "Yan, this is a film, not a TV show." That's all he said, man. And we were like, "Okay."
Yeah.
All right, calm down. Everybody slow down. The old man has spoken. The old man spoken. Yeah, no, so we calm down. The other thing that I learned about Wan Hanafi Su is that, again, the hardest part about working with actors, because it's about interaction. It's really about how you work with people. And there's this scene in the mosque where he grabs the ustaz, right? And the reason I didn't write it that way, I wrote it exactly in Apprentice, where he grabbed Fear, he's like slamming Fear on the wall, and I wrote it that way. And he came to set. You must remember, I've written this scene, this script for 5 years. It's been in my head for 5 years. I've seen this scene so many times. And he came on set and he said, "I don't want to do it that way." And I'm like, "Wow, why? Why not?" And he's like, "I've done it before so many times." And I didn't want to tell him that I really got it because of Apprentice. And so I was stuck. And the thing that for me, what I learned the hard way was that if you have an idea of a scene in your head and certain things don't work, instead of getting probably 30-40% of the scene because it has been tweaked so much, you have to throw everything out and start from scratch. So I asked him, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "I will stalk up to the guy, like an animal, like a predator getting the prey." And I said, "Can you show me?" And then he started doing that move. And Yan and I was like, "Guys, this is a one shot. This is literally one shot following him, right?" And it worked so much better because it was way scarier. And it felt even better cinematically because we get to use a wide shot that slowly compresses to a 2-shot. So I literally, what I do is I have a shot list, and suddenly you're like realizing that there are 4 shots that have now just become 1 shot, right? And that's the process working with Wan Hanafi Su. And the thing is, what people do not realize that Wan Hanafi Su, as he's playing like whoever he plays in Apprentice, in La Luna, he is total opposite of that. He's a rock and roller. He's a mud rocker. He's an old mud rocker. He's really chill. He is totally anti-establishment. The things that he read and everything is a total opposite of who he plays. So I've learned a lot just talking to him about the craft, believe it or not. And and it really, really was a great experience for me.
Yeah, I'm curious because you said that he's this rock and roller, right? But he looks so much like this elderly religious figure, right? So I was wondering, what was he like taking from to imbue into this character, right?
Yeah, I think he's using it. He's using the anti-establishment aspect, and he is playing who he will hate.
Oh, okay.
He hates like how certain governments are controlling the people. So, and now he is the government. How is he going to play? Is literally playing the people that he really, really hate. So throughout the film, and he's like, when we're making of it, he's talking about he hates his politician, he hates that politician, and he is literally playing those characters.
Wow.
Wow. And I thought that was fantastic. And again, because he's such a well-read and well-traveled person, so he really imbues a lot of that. So it's quite shockingly amazing.
Nice. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Just now you mentioned you originally had 4 shots, and upon hearing and accepting one's idea, and you compress that 4 shots into a 1 long take. When you were doing that, did you get concerned about the potential pacing of the film? Because when you were planning this scene in 4 shots, there is a certain pace to a short scene with 4 shots, and now it's become a 1 long take. Were you concerned about how this change in pace could affect, the overall like scheme of the film?
Yes, I do. And the thing is, the best part is that for Yan and myself, when we were doing La Luna, our film references are always Asian films. But believe it or not, when it comes to shots, we studied a lot of Steven Spielberg's films. And if you watch Spielberg's films, he does a lot of things that is like so shocking.
Yeah.
It's just in one shot, right?
Yeah.
But yet, because he did in one shot, that doesn't mean there's no editing within the frame.
Yep.
So it really looked like, there's a white shot of Tom Cruise walking in, and then suddenly when he turns around, we're going to his gun, and it turns out to an MCU.
Yeah.
So he's literally directing the camera or directing your eyes to bounce off the frame.
Yep.
And that's how I felt when I watched that. I just want to make sure that it doesn't look boring. So what I do, the one practice that I did, because it's sometimes I got a bit of ADHD, so it's a bit hard to explain to people what I have in my head. So I'll carry a whiteboard with me, and I write down all my shots there. So the whole team can see how many shots are there for the scene. So they are looking at these 8 shots, and they know they're in trouble when there are 25 shots, right? So they see these 8 shots, and my producer will be there, and they will look, okay, so I need a white shot, I need a single of Wan Hanafi Su, I need a 2 shot of him and the Ustaz, I need a single of Ustaz. And when we watch that shot being done, she will start erasing shots. She's like, oh, we got a white shot. It slowly becomes a 2 shot, and it is interesting. It's really about how powerful the actors are, how well the shot is framed. And then you realize, you know what? Even though there's no editing involved, your eyes are still bouncing. You're still looking at it. And that's the power of film that I find that that TV doesn't do very much, because TV you're looking at a screen, right? You're totally always looking at a white shot no matter what. But when you're in the cinema, you're literally looking at across the screen. So that's the best part, and that's the difference between Banting and La Luna. There was more craft in filmmaking than what we did for Banting.
Oh yeah, for sure. Can you talk to us about the rehearsal process? How many days of rehearsal did you have, given how busy your actors were?
Okay. All right. Rehearsals. There are no rehearsals. And
No rehearsals?
No rehearsals. We had one day where we did, there's this one day that we do a reading, but it's for the young actress. I'll get to that in a while. So I do not, I know it sounds, different people have different styles, right? I did not want to rehearse. And it was so weird because we had the whole cast there one time. Every single one is there. But I didn't want to rehearse. And Sharifah Mani was like, dude, the cast is here. We should do a reading. I'm like, I don't want to. I do not want to. And the reason why I do not want to do a reading or a rehearsal, first of all, I don't want to do a reading at all. The fact that you have all these great actors sitting down in this big table and they're reading the dialogue, they're going to be reading it like, hey, how are you today? They're going to be reading it. But scripts are not meant to be read. Scripts are meant to be performed, right? So they're going to read it. And I'll feel very depressed. I'm like, holy crap, my script sucks. And the fact is that they are just reading. It's called reading, right? And why I didn't want to do rehearsals is that I do not want to find something exciting in rehearsal and have to recreate it on set. Or we have something really, really good, and then on set, the set is totally different, and then you start being married to a certain idea. I didn't want to have that at all. So this is why I didn't want to do any rehearsals. But we did one day of reading with the actress, because the young girl, Shumaila, she has never acted with all these big stars before. So when the first time they all came, she was like shocked because she was like really starstruck. So she didn't get to do much. So I said, you know what, we need to break a moment with her, with Sharifah Mani and Sam. And we did. And it was very helpful because, and I realized that, that was very important for her. But for the whole cast, what was important is that when we came down for our reading for the first time, all we did was just talk. We just have pizzas, we have drinks, they all just come and they just talk. And all of them were thinking that they're going to do a read, but in the end, they're just chit-chatting. We were just chit-chatting. I wanted to get to know them personally. That's the most important part for me. Because a lot of directing is about knowing your actors personally. So that you know which buttons to push. So that was what I did instead of having a rehearsal.
Nice.
Right. Because I thought usually like how many days of rehearsal is baked into the contract that the actors have to sign before they officially come on board the film.
Yeah.
So does it mean that in the contract it's stated like 1 day rehearsal or 0 rehearsal, and yeah, how does that work?
I think the contract. I don't remember the contractual terms that they have, but I remember there was one fitting day, one meeting day, and it's very small. It's very, very small. And I didn't even think. And to be honest, I didn't even realize it until you just mentioned it to me. I'm like, yeah, why didn't we do it? And no, I just felt that it has to be instinctive. The thing that I learned about working with the Trinity was that Sharifah Mani comes from some theatre. So she does a lot of rehearsals. So before we start the scene, especially in the master, we probably need to take around 3 to 4 master takes so that everybody gets into the groove of it. So she likes rehearsals. Shaizi Sam and Wan Hanafi Su are very instinctive actors.
Yep.
They do not like to rehearse because they do not want to lose that
Yeah.
attention. They want to find something in the shot. So when there are 3 of them in a shot, it is always very tricky. So when we do our shot list, we know we need to get a master, then go to shoot Sam first, and then Wan Hanafi Su, and then finally go to Sharifah Mani, right? So that she gets to warm up. And by the time we are reaching the 5th shot, Sam and Wan Hanafi Su are already wound down already, but we will get the best performance for Sharifah Mani. So these are the things that I learned. And it also comes from having conversations with them. So that's a cool part about making La Luna, really learning about techniques or different styles of acting that comes with the people there.
Right. Do you ever shoot with 2 cameras?
Yes, I think the fire scene we shot with 2 cameras.
Right.
Only the fire scene. Everything else was shot with 1 camera. I think Sophian likes the discipline of him manning the whole thing. And for me as well, I've got very bad attention span, so I'll be looking at 2 screens, it's going to be a disaster. So we try not to do that. But we shot, for the fire scene was shot with 2 cameras.
Right. And now that you mentioned the fire scene, let's talk about that. How, because fire, like things burning down,
It's
very
scary.
difficult to orchestrate. Just walk us through, like, how did you plan the whole thing? And obviously you can only burn the house down once, unless you have backup. And when I say this, for some reason I suddenly remember, Tarkovsky has a film called The Sacrifice. And at the last scene, the house is supposed to burn down, but so sad for him, the camera stopped working halfway through. And the Tarkovsky team literally had to rebuild the house and burn it down a second time. Yeah.
Man. Yeah. All right.
Talk to us about your experience burning down the house.
Okay. So let's talk about the house first. So when we found the location, it was literally in the middle of a paddy field. There was no house there. So being Singaporeans, our idea is that we buy timber and build a house, and then we burn it, and we age it, and then we burn it down. And my other director is like, no, we shouldn't do that. It's too expensive. We should buy a house. I'm like, share. There's no house here. They say, we'll go buy a house, and then we bring it here. I'm like, what do you mean? And so that's what happened. So we went to Taiping, which is like an hour away from Kuala Kangsar, saw a house that we liked. We recce'd it. I went up the house. I looked out. It's a highway. And the next thing I know, they actually bought the house. They broke it down, nail by nail, plank by plank, put it into 3 different trucks, drove to Kuala Kangsar and built the house again. So it's literally...
Wow.
Yeah, it is shocking. So the first time when I was up in the house, I was looking at all these roads. And the next time I'm at the house, we are looking at paddy fields. So that is the journey of the house. And the fact is, when we were going to burn it. But my producer there, the EP, Adrian Tay directs a lot of big action movies. Pascal, Assistant, Malbat. So he was telling me, you need 3 days to shoot this. And what's the backup plan? And everything. I said, I do not have a backup plan. I'm going to burn it once. I'm going to use 2 cameras. And he says, it's just too risky. And the thing is, right, I wish I could say, right, you know what, I am that damn good that I can do this in 1 sitting. But the fact is, I just am not trained like how they are. I have never had the ability to take, burn down a house once and build it again. I do not have that ability. I literally come from a world like, if these things happen, you got to do it once and you got to make it count, right? So, but we worked it out properly because I knew. So we had to shoot the fire scene, we had to shoot the interior first, and then we went out to shoot it. When we were out, the rule is that the good thing about all the actors, they're all theatre trained as well. They have done theatre. So I say, like, the moment I say action, do not stop acting. We are just going to keep on rolling like crazy, right? The bomba came, the stunt people came. The stunt people say, you have 2 hours to shoot this, to do the burning. So we will confirm we'll get our shots in 2 hours. God, 2 hours is a lifetime. You can change your hard disk like 3-4 times. So we are like very confident about it. And the bomba is there, getting ready to. And then the fire began. And we were like, action, the fire began. And then the fire got really big, really, really, really fast. It was an inferno immediately. And the scariest thing is that they were like, we were like, good, let's use this. So we were filming it and everything. They promised us 2 hours. The house burned down in 15 minutes flat.
Wow.
Yes, and thank God for 2 cameras. So we always have one shot on the actors and the other one on the house, right? And the thing that what I love about that scene is that because everybody is in it. The thing is, when I'm directing emotional scenes or big scenes like this, I want to make sure that the whole damn set is working together. The whole damn set is invested in the scene, like how the characters are. So no one is taking out their phones, no one is just texting them. Everybody is in it together, right? So, like, say, for example, the cam assist, right? She had like, everything has to be ready because there's no way going to say stop. You have to change the hard disk, change it now, immediately and everything. So it was so fast-paced, I can't remember what exactly happened, to be honest. I kind of blocked it out. So you were asking me what exactly, I don't remember. I remember one thing, though. I was so, harried. I was looking at the wrong screen. At one point, I'm like, why is my giant screen starting to become small? They took away the screen away. And, I was like, it was crazy, but it was so fun because it was exciting. And yeah, so 15 minutes it burned down. And then after that, we start taking coverage. We reverse our shot, not showing the house. We just use light to simulate and to get certain shots. But yeah, the house burning was, I think it was the second last day of shoot, and it was quite exciting.
So can you share a bit more? So you have 2 cameras. One camera is on the fire. It is in a long shot, and the other camera is in a way a reverse shot, looking at the characters who are looking at the fire, right?
Correct.
So so the other camera that is filming the characters, because my memory is a bit hazy. Was it in a wide shot filming all 3 characters, or did you do like a tighter shot on one character? And how did you make sure that your other camera has enough coverage of all the characters?
So there is a delicate ballet between the 2, Yan and the second camera person. The rule of thumb is whatever I'm shooting, you should be shooting the opposite of it. So the second camera have to take the cue from Sofian. And if you're talking about coverage, this is really that one moment where I have no coverage. There's no shot list. It's like whatever the camera gets, that's the one we're going to use. So it's literally documentary-like. It's really documentary-like, right? And, there's this energy because everybody was, like I say, I do not have a single shot. So even my AD at the time, she's like, how many shots do you think you need? I say, I don't know. We are just going to let them do this and we're going to capture it. There's this sense of immediacy to that part of the film, which I absolutely love. And I just can't see it done any other way. I just do not see, there's a wide shot, there's a single shot. So which is why it's very hard to edit because there was no cuts. So it was like literally, just covering as much as possible. But yeah, it's a delicate ballet between the 2 camera folks. And in terms of coverage, there was none because we just went in and get what we need. For me, what's important for that scene is emotions than shots.
Right.
The emotions have to be true. That's the most important.
Did you think?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was going to speak another topic. I think you continue this.
Oh no, I was just going to ask, did you ever think maybe I need a 3rd camera?
The thing is, I work quite well with limitations, it's hard to admit it now. In retrospect, it's easy, we go with limitations, but there are so many things that we had to fight for and we lost and it was defeated, we feel very defeated, but it kind of turned out for better. So for example, to get a gun in Malaysia was very, very difficult, especially if we want to have something that looks real for close-up shots, right? Again, in Singapore, we'll just get something, because it's a small screen, but you're talking about a big screen, you need to see that it looks like a gun. So we found out that the cost of a gun was like what, $200 a day, and it comes with like a armored truck that comes in from KL. So it's so bloody damn expensive. So what happened was that for one of the scenes, I think the guy go berserk at the house. He had to use a parang because we do not have a gun that day. So we had to use the parang as a prop, and it got even better because the parang looks way scarier to be flailed around. So I had to work with a lot of these limitations, and that includes the burning of the house. We had to budget only 2 cameras. That's it. It was literally a scenario of, instead of what we must have, what we ideally have, but it's actually a question of what can we get and how are we going to make this the best. I think that what's the term? It's only in the presence of limitations that a master shows itself. Not, I'm talking about me. I'm talking about my team. We have to be forced to use all these things because I will have ideal choice. I want this, I want that, but the producer will always come to tell me, and reality sucks sometimes. You really just don't have the money. Another good example for it was that there's this sequence when the daughter was begging the father to go on a date with this boy. Originally, it was a Steadicam shot. Oh, no, follow Steadicam. And then we get to find out how much a Steadicam costs, right? I was so pissed off, and I was so pissed off. And again, instead of doing it how I wrote it, we had to cut it up into pieces. And it got better because suddenly it's a little funnier, and it works way better. So I feel that working with limitations is great. It's better. Yep. Especially, we all know this story, right? Jaws would not have been effective if the shark was working every single time, right? But so to answer your question is that no, there was never a choice for third camera. It's always 2 cameras.
With the film, right, I realized that it's such a delicate balance between comedy and also quite serious scenes as well, especially the subplot with the abusive husband. Was this something you were quite aware of even from the scripting stage, or were there more surprising developments while you are shooting on set? It's like, this film is turning out to be a little bit more serious or a little bit more funny while you're shooting. Were there instances like that?
No, actually, shockingly, when I was writing it, I knew that there's all these certain scenes, and I knew that there's going to be a graduation towards that. The biggest inspiration is Piramli films. Piramli films in the 60s, they will always start as comedies, and then they will get heavier. But if for me, another one that was just very, very inspirational is the Mr. Vampire series. If you watch the Junction movies, right?
Yeah.
They are either freaking scary or freaking funny,
Yeah.
So and then there are some parts, it starts funny and it becomes really scary and it becomes funny again. There's this schizophrenic way of them doing it, So, but I know that I couldn't afford to do that. I cannot have the film to be schizophrenic in the sense. There must be a graduation. So it's really about pacing it. It's really about script writing wise. It's like really knowing when is your light elements coming in, when you get heavy. So if you can see, it's almost like the film is divided into half. The first half is way funnier. The second half is heavier. But you still try to poke in the little jokes here and there. But it has always been from the beginning that it's going to be like that. Many
comedy directors, they have their own principles in directing comedy. Some prefer to shoot everything in the masters, keeping to master shots and all that. For you, are there any certain principles that you subscribe to when filming comedy?
Visual. So for me, it has to be visual. Again, the graduation from Banting to La Luna is really about how do you tell a joke as visually as possible, right? And also performance is really, I think the way the actors do certain things that it will surprise you. I don't think I'm like Jack Neo where the written word is the comedy. You watch
right.
It is so detailed. The comedy really comes from how they do things and the satirical aspect of it. So I do not know how to do that yet. I still feel that for me, it's always visual. The way the wife comes into the room in a sexy attire and he raises his hand is just visual.
Right.
And again, it really comes from watching a lot of Hollywood movies because, Hollywood movies are much more visual than a lot of other cinema. But for me, the principle of it is really try to tell it as visually as possible and make sure that the actor is very comfortable about it. Because my sense of humor might not work with the actor. I really depend on them bringing it to life and there has to be that trust.
Just curious, which Hollywood director's sense of humor do you most closely align with and get
Right.
inspired from?
Wes Anderson, Kevin Smith, Tarantino. Yeah, these three at least. The way they use the cuts, and everything, it's brilliant. So yeah, these three.
Nice. Now to a slightly more serious question, right? In terms
Sure.
of the themes that you explore, this relationship between religion or specifically Islam and set against this tension between religion and what you might say like behavior. Can you talk more about that? I mean, maybe you could start from a personal place, right? Like why are you interested in these kind of themes? Is it something to do with your personal history and your background, and it's something that you're navigating even in a Singapore context?
Sure. I mean, I just do not like bullies, especially bullies who use religion as a weapon, right? I think it's like the worst thing can do, right? You're not spreading the words of God, you're using it for your own gains, right? And we do not need to look far to see how people have, bastardized or mutated words from religious texts for their own good, right? For their own benefit. I kind of hate that. So I wanted to tell a film about it. And again, if I do it as a serious thing, people are going to be quite turned off by that.
Yeah.
So which is why it's always interesting to tell it from a humorous point of view. The film is really about how simple religion actually is. And I just wanted to show that, there are really bad people out there who are doing bad things. And they're using bad things in the name of God, in the name of the Holy Book, and that's what I wanted to do. Literally, and I've seen this, I've heard this, I've gone to sermons where people are saying things which I'm like, really, is that what was preached? So to me, that's what I wanted to show. If you're asking me if do I want to tell a story about a lingerie shop, not necessarily. I think I would say that if there is a bigger reason to make La Luna was to show this aspect. The lingerie part is literally the way in to tell something serious.
Yeah, and I think not just Islam, right? But a lot of religions are going through a difficult time, especially today, when I think if you look at like some studies or statistic, I think more and more people are becoming agnostic. They are becoming less religious.
Yep.
And especially if you look at what Pope Francis and the Catholic Church is trying to do, they're trying to modernize. They're trying to be more open-minded and liberal because they know if they don't keep up with the times in some way, what they do, what they represent will become irrelevant to people's lives. What is your thoughts on that when it comes to your own religion? And in a way, I see your film trying to address this question, in a way, this line, like where is the best spot to draw this line where one can maintain the lessons and the teachings of a religion. And the other side of the sand is modernity, right? As people get more modern and more liberal. I'm just curious to know, as you were writing this script and maybe your own personal beliefs between this line, like where I think in Singapore we're quite lucky because in general people are more progressive. Yeah, just curious your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I didn't know how crazy things can get until we released the film in Netflix, and there were a lot of vitriolic comments coming in from everywhere in the country, in Malaysia especially. So there are a lot of people that labeled the film as very liberal. They call it a very liberal film, mostly from the conservatives. And what I was trying to do, believe it or not, is try to tell a story in the most centrist way as possible. Because the thing is, everybody keeps saying that, like I said, the Trinity, that's why the reason why I call it the Trinity is simply because on one hand, you have a very conservative man. The other side is a slightly more liberal lady. But the most important character is Sam's character. He is the one who is actually very conservative and realize that you need to learn. You have to understand that the world changed. How are you going to adapt? Right? So he takes on a slight, like I said, the reason why I have to write Sam's character as close to who I am, which is basically being a progressive conservative. There are certain things that you do not change, right? There are certain things that you cannot change, but there are certain things that you have to realize that people change, everything changed in this world, and you have to take a more centrist approach if you can, right? But the thing is that it's not even a closed book. It is an ongoing conversation. You have to realize that you have to talk, right? I was watching this video about Obama in school, and he says that, we should not be banning books that are totally against what we believe. I think you're trying to ban Mein Kampf from being read in schools. And it's like, no, you have to read about texts, about people that you do not understand, that you hate, because only then you try to understand where they're coming from. And I feel that's how with La Luna, it was really trying to find a way to say that, guys, we have to talk about it. And I have talked about this before, and I keep telling people the reason why La Luna has to be made for film is because you will never have that conversation if you do it as a TV show, as a TV series. So films travel, right? And the thing that I was lucky enough to travel to Japan, Indonesia, Rotterdam, and you get different perspectives. It's so shocking is they are watching the exact same freaking film, right? And they're seeing totally different things, right? In Japan, believe it or not, they see it as a film of patriarchy. They even asked me on stage, do you think that middle-aged men should run a country like how it is being run in Japan right now? I'm like and they even say that, do middle-aged men have the right to run everything like this film festival? I'm like, I don't think I can answer that. I tried to answer it as best I can't remember what I said, but they believe the story is about patriarchy. In Rotterdam, it is a story about feminism. When we are in Jakarta, they talk about how religion is controlling people, and then in Malaysia, conservatives versus liberalism.
Yep.
So that's just based on one film, is it?
And in Singapore, how is it like?
Singapore is very interesting. Singapore, the reaction is that we are very modern. They see that, they see the film as what it is. It's a comedy, right? But it's daring enough to do it, right? But again, it sparks conversation. Again, same thing. They talk about different things. Some I've had conversation about feminism. I've had conversation about male toxicity, again, from the same film. And that's the best part of making a film, that you get to have conversations about it after.
So for you, when you were writing the film, which theme was stronger to you? Was it the religion part or the religious part, or was it the feminism versus patriarchy part?
I don't know. I see. The thing is that I know for a fact I can't write about feminism because I may not understand it well enough. I have to write it from being as truthful as possible, especially from the toxic men's character. You got to go deep, and you realize that there's a lot of your friends who are like this, a lot of the people that you hate are like this, and you try to distill it into these characters. For me, and I've said this before, people ask me, I think a Malaysian reporter asked me, why do you want to tell a story about a woman that gets beaten up by the husband? And I say, no, I'm interested in a story about a woman standing up for herself. The journey, the final destination was what I wanted to make. In order to get there, I have to show it from the start, how she actually does this. So for me, the film that I really wanted to make is really about controlling religion. It's really about two things, change and control, right? How one person tries to control and everything, and the other one is like realizing that things change. So that's the thing that interests me more than anything else. The feminism part of it just comes with the story. It's really a byproduct of the characters that was created.
Yeah. And one last question on this topic. What do you think is the role of religion in our society today? Big question, but
it's a big question.
I'm just curious to know your take.
You do what you need to do. So, I'll give you an example. I was from, when I was in kindergarten, it was from a madrasa like kindergarten, so it's all Muslims. And then when I go to primary 1, I went to a Catholic school, right? And then they say the Lord's Prayer and they say the Hail Mary every single day. I can memorize it until today, right? I remember when I first did it, I was scolded by my parents. They say, no, you cannot do that because that's what the Catholics do, And then I had this argument with a Hindu friend of mine, and we were talking about whose God is better, right? And I lost because he said, you cannot see your God. I can see my God, And I'm like, wow, And why I'm saying that story is because you should take on what faith that speaks to you the best, right? It should be a guiding light. It should not be something that, that's bad. You do what is necessary. You do what's right for you. And you just have to respect that, At the end of the day, what was the joke? a Catholic, Muslim, Buddhist, and a Satanist went into a bar, and they all have a good time because no one's an asshole, right? So, and I think religion, people keep talking about how it separates us, but I think there's something that connects us all. No religion tells you to do something bad, right? So that's how I see it actually, and I think it's a beautiful thing that we have this difference, yet we can find a commonality.
Yeah, I think we can go next to talk about some of the TV work that you've done.
Yep.
Sure.
John, you want to go?
Yeah. As I know that, other than your feature narrative work, you've also had a long career doing TV as well. How is directing long form different from a feature film for you?
Directing long form, the problem with directing long form is that you really need to have a big picture, and you really have, what's the joke? Not a joke. I mean, what's the saying? How do you eat a whale? One bite at a time. So it's really, really tough because you're looking at like the day-to-day work, right? And then you realize that in the call sheet, it's like episode 2, and then there's episode 9, there's episode 7, and you just have to trust that you know what you're doing because everybody's looking at you for an answer, right? That's the hardest part. It's like a bloody long marathon where you have to fix puzzles as you go along. But at the same time, it trains you to be very instinctive. I think that's what my TV directing taught me, was that I have to be really instinctive in the sense that, when there's a problem. So, for example, when it rains, what are you going to do? You cannot reschedule scenes. 90% you can't do that. You have to work the rain in. And I think that the training that I got from TV brought me to La Luna when we were in the middle of nowhere and it started raining. We have to shoot through the rain because that's what I was taught, and that was the experience that I had. So it is tough, but at the same time it can be fun, and especially now. Back then it was harder. Now I think TV has evolved. We're talking about the Netflix and everything, right? Storytelling has evolved as well, and I think the power of doing television is not to do it as a film, right? Give it the best example. You can never make Breaking Bad as a film. It must only exist as a TV series, right?
Yeah.
Because the growth of a sick old man to become the godfather of math, right, can only be told best in a serialized storytelling. So the thing is, I learned slightly later than I expected that you have to look at them as two different mediums. I went to film school, I went to FSV, when they say, I do not want to do TV, TV sucks, I want to do films and everything. And I keep telling people that you are not seeing the power of television. The power of television, for example, is that something that that film doesn't have. Act breaks, for example. You can write your story to a point in an act break, and then when you come back from commercial, you tell a different storyline. You can't do that with a film. You can never do that, right? So you have to see the strength of the two mediums and realize the power that each one has. And I think we have come to a point in today's age is that Netflix kind of like show us that there are many ways to tell different story, right? And I think that's the coolest part about doing TV now.
Cool.
Do you think? I'm just curious, right? Because you mentioned Netflix and obviously I think American TV has seen a huge jump from the days of Friends, Malcolm in the Middle, West Wing. Did that jump occur in Singapore TV?
I mean, I'll be very, very honest. It's not as great as you want it to be. And it is hard. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why it's so hard is that because we are still government funded, the PSB, right? So there are certain things that we need to adhere to that is a bit easier in a very commercially driven place like America, right? Netflix, the reason why they can make all these great shows is because they really want people to watch Netflix. So they really try to break any boundaries they can get, right? So if you look at it, HBO, Netflix, and Disney Plus, for example, right, or Amazon, they make very different kind of shows. Very, very different. Things that are done in Amazon may not be made in Netflix because they really want to get people to watch. Singapore TV is harder. I mean, until today, we are still talking about, if you want to do a certain scene, they say, oh no, police don't do that. We do not show police in that kind of light. You still can have that kind of conversation because, at the end of the day, we are government funded. All our projects are all public service funded, you see. But it's still growing. I think there are things that, like Third Rail. There are still things a lot on TV, especially that today, inspired by all the Netflix. There's a growth, there's an evolution. There is no revolution. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and that's cool. But it's taking a little longer than expected, and sometimes it can be frustrating. But we are getting there. It's never say never. We should just keep on pushing forward.
Right.
Yeah, I think the stuff that screens on TV, maybe roughly still the same. But I've seen some recent stuff on Me Watch, and they have a very marked different style in terms of tone. Like a lot of stuff on Me Watch are like darker in tone. They explore more serious themes.
Yep.
Do you see that difference and that jump when it comes to the stuff that are streamed on Me Watch?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you're talking about MediaCorp stuff. We anything that is shown from 7 p.m. onwards is really have to be family friendly, because you never know how many kids will be watching, right? So when you go to Me Watch, when you're talking about like age, there's age restrictions to the story, you can tell much more interesting stories there, right? So that's cool, but the question is, how do you get people? Because right now there are two totally different voices. You see, until today, right? You're talking about like the Channel 8 shows didn't grow as much as you want, because it really caters to a certain set of audience and it works so well, right? And it's hard to change things overnight. So that's why Me Watch was created, in the sense that you can tell slightly different stories, but you're still dividing your audience, you see. And it's not getting as much audience as you want. And it's a tough world. You're competing with the Netflixes of the world. Every Thursday, right, you have like different new Netflix releases, right? Versus, trying to watch something on Channel 5 or Surya. It's very tough, because people are more spoiled by choice now. See, that when I keep telling people this, when I was in the army, we die need to finish our last parade by 6:30, because we have to watch Holland V at 7 o'clock. Okay? And I'm talking about, and that's the thing. Yeah, and the thing is, the beautiful part is that I'm not talking about Chinese. I'm talking about Malays, Indians. You have one foreign guy, but you have to finish last parade at 6:30 so that you can shower in time and watch Holland V until 8 o'clock, and then you book out for nights out, right? But because back then we didn't have a lot to watch, and it also helps that Holland V was really, really good. And that's the thing with evolution sometimes, because if you get too comfortable making the exact same thing and we do not grow, you'll still be making Holland V today, which is not good, because you should be growing. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share more about the discussions happening in like up there when it comes to Me Watch and MediaCorp? I'm very, very sure that the senior management in Me Watch and MediaCorp, they know that there's a dropping viewership for the content on whether it's national broadcast or on Me Watch. Are they having discussions of how can we bring back the audience? What's their strategy for bringing back the audience? Are they targeting more towards young people, or maybe married people, slightly more older audiences? Can you share with us what's happening behind the scenes when it comes to the strategy?
I mean, I'm not so privy to it. I mean, based on the conversations that I've had with friends and everything, it's like really, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of situation. You try to do something, and if it fails, you fail. If it works, something good can come out of it, right? And right now, it really feels like, wow, it's like a game of darts, man. You're like really trying to shoot and try to see what hits and what works. Nobody knows that Last Madame is going to work until it's made, right? That's a fact. So and that's a big gamble on Jean's part. Jean was my mentor, and she believed in it. I do not see it until I watched it. I'm like, I get it now why this is so successful. But it took risks, and risks have to be taken, and sometimes the risks are just too damn expensive.
Which show was it again?
Last
Which show was it?
Madame.
The Last Madame.
Yes, Last Madame. Yeah, and for even for me, when we did things on Surya at that time, I think I did one called SR115, which is about a plane that comes back after like 19 years, and it didn't do well ratings wise, but we were very fortunate to have won. I managed to win the best original script at the AACA, Asian Academy Creative Awards, and it's because someone out there took the risk to tell to greenlight the series, you see.
Hmm.
But again, it's very, very hard. You're talking about like trying new things, and what if people don't get it? And the thing is, people just want to hate now. The netizens seem to be hating on everything now. So it's a tough thing. And they are more kind to the Netflix shows and everything because maybe they have much better production values, but still trying, man. I don't think any of the Singapore producers have decided to throw in the towel. They are literally trying to do new things every single day.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that Singaporeans are very critical, more critical of our own stuff than they are of stuff on Netflix. There are a lot of trash on Netflix, to be fair.
True. But I don't know whether we have always been like this and there was never an avenue to air your grievances, For all you know, back then, when I was watching like Unbeatables, probably some boomer out there at that time, what nonsense is this, right? But they just don't have a way to air their grievances, we do not know about it. But now we are just sharing all our opinions, especially bad opinions, because it's more fun to be posting bad things than anything good.
Yeah. And for me, it's... Yeah, go ahead, John.
I also realized that in your TV work, you also took the chance to also go into a lot of other genres. You've done horror anthologies and comedy series as well. I'm just curious to know, like, what does horror mean to you? Yeah, because it seems to be a genre that feels quite close to you as well.
Yeah, horror for me, horror is very, very hard to do because good horror is it's just not that it's scary, but it says something. It tells you about something. So and I always felt that if you use horror properly, you can get to talk about themes that you really want to talk about. It's the same as comedy. I wanted to tell a story about religion controlling people. I use a comedy to tell that story. So for horror, it's the same thing. I think for myself, when I was doing Ibu was really about motherhood. It's really a story about relationships, and using the Pontianak as a way in was the way to do it. And it's the same with everything that I've done, including my TV work as well.
Okay. So what are some of your future plans? Do you have a next feature film in the pipeline?
Yes, I am working on a new feature film. We may have just gotten greenlit. I don't know. I'm not so sure what the producers are talking yet, but I'm just writing it at the moment. So we've been traveling up and down Malaysia quite a bit because of meeting people and all. So it's been fun. It's really the best part about making films or writing a script at this moment is that you're not bound by budget. You're not bound by schedule. So we are just like throwing things up in the air. Don't care about how much things cost. But still writing it, and it's been a good journey. I mean, the fact that we just made it's much shorter. God willing, it's much shorter than the jump from Banting to La Luna. So we're still making it now. So hopefully we get to release it either late next year or 2026.
Nice.
I'm just curious, when it comes to producing feature films, do you have a pressure for the film to make money?
Absolutely. I think you have a pressure to the people who put the money in, but you as a creative, I'm just literally talking about the director and the writer. Your job is not looking at that money. Somebody has to be looking at that. If you are thinking about that, you will start to fail, because you'll be second guessing yourself every step of the way. You look at this cast, you're like, oh, but he won't bring in the audience, should we get another? You are not being truthful, because I was just reading this. I have this thing I got. Pass you guys. Show you guys. This is my La Luna file, guys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I just opened it because I had to refer something. I saw something that Guillermo del Toro said, which I thought was fantastic. He says that everybody keeps thinking that the director is God on film, but actually he says no, we are Moses, because we are the ones who are trying to, we are the ones who are being loyal to something. The film is the God. You have to be loyal to the film, right? And it's the same thing. I feel that. So the question that you asked, whether the pressure, of course there's that pressure, but if you allow it to wear you down, you're not going to make the best film because you're not being truthful to the film. because at the back of your mind it's like always about the money, So for me, it was very clear. For myself and my producers, it's very clear cut that there is one person just looking at the money, the business, one person is looking at production, and I'm looking at the creative aspect of things. There are days that we all have to come together, but there are many days where my business partner and myself do not talk about the creative aspect. In fact, he refused to look at the script because he doesn't want to have his opinions colored by what the film needs. He needs to see it from numbers and not from the creative point of view.
Yep.
Right. And so if you don't think about the money, at what point do you think about the money? Is it when it comes to distribution?
Distribution. Yeah, I mean, yes. The thing is, say for example, right, for La Luna, for example, we knew, I knew I wanted Sharifah money for sure, right? So, but Sharifah money is from the indie side of things. She's the indie darling, right? So we know that we are not going to get a mass audience. So casting for the male lead, we know we could not go that same route. We have to go from a different route. So which is why we paired Sam with Sharifah Mani. So there is that money element coming in, but at the same time, I wanted to use that. So the question I have for myself is how do I use that as a strength as opposed to be something that's very burdensome, right? Because the last thing I want is the producer say, you should use this guy. He brings in the female audience, but the guy can't act, right? So I do think about money, but I try to not think about it too much. And I'll give you an example. Like for example, producers say we only can afford 10 extras instead of 40, right? And then suddenly you realize this limitations thing. Then you start to change your shots. Suddenly from a 35, you're shooting on a 50. You're changing things as you go along. I do think about money, but I do not let it be. It's not my North Star. I cannot be following that throughout. I will fail. And I have failed before. My worst failure in making anything was that I listened to someone because they say it will make more money a certain way.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my biggest, that's the hardest part for me.
Right. I mean, I don't know, and I'm not sure if you're comfortable to share. Did La Luna do well commercially?
No, it did terribly. I mean, I'll be very frank with you. It did terribly, and both in Singapore and Malaysia. And there's always this, every time something fails, we keep talking about, why it failed. But one of the reasons La Luna didn't work in terms of as a cinematic thing is it's so damn hard to sell. It is so damn hard to sell because in Malaysia there's a ruling. If you're showing lingerie, you cannot show the spots in TV.
I see.
So TV is already out. So we had to cut a trailer that has no lingerie at all. If you look at a poster, it was the best poster that they can come out with the limitations that they have because you cannot show lingerie at all. So people, when they look at the poster, they're like, "What is this film about?"
Yeah. It's like
so you have
people in the kampung.
Yeah, correct, exactly. So you have families going to the cinema not knowing it's about a bra, and they left pissed. They're like, "What the hell kind of film is this?" It's so hard to market. And then you know what happened? The whole thing with Palestine and Hamas, the whole thing was happening, and it got even worse. We couldn't sell the film as a cheeky comedy even online because the last thing you want is to be scrolling through someone's IG story and there's a trailer for La Luna with all the cheekiness, and the next shot is of kids getting blown up by drones or something like that. So it's becomes super sensitive. It becomes ultra sensitive, and things just started to get from bad to worse. Believe it or not, as bad as La Luna did, it was not the worst thing that happened then. There were like blockbusters in Malaysia that was released during that period that nobody watched because everybody seems to be more interested in what's going on in the real world, and the last thing they want is to escape with movies. Shockingly, I think if I'm not wrong, the Marvels did horribly. I think it's like the lowest grossing Marvel movie ever. Because in that period, nobody seems to be interested to be watching stuff like that.
I see. Yeah, I guess you kind of answered my next question because I was going to ask, when a film does not perform well at the box office, especially when the reason is more to do with the film than what's happening like politically in the climate.
Yep.
It's pretty hard. Is it pretty hard to get another chance to make a film?
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
now you're making your third feature.
Mm.
But the thing is, La Luna didn't do well, but it wasn't entirely your fault. Politics happened.
Yep.
So is that why right now you still have a chance to make the next feature, even though La Luna didn't perform well commercially?
That's a great question. So for us, just now you mentioned about the money aspect of things. Of course there was some pressure here and there to cast slightly bigger names in the smaller roles and all that stuff. And we stuck to our guns and we said that this is the one we're gonna make. And we felt that there are two ways, right? You can make a film not to how you want it to be. You don't want to be, you make a film that's a bit not according to what your heart wants, and then the movie fails. Or you make a film as truthful and as authentic as how you want it to be, and then the film fails. But at least you made the best film out there. And La Luna is proof of that. Success. I mean, no matter how people say, I'm very open to say that it failed, of course, in terms of like money wise. It's show business, right? And I failed in that aspect. But something happened, when we were in Netflix, we were trending for I think in Malaysia, I think we were in number one for 8 days, and we were in there for like almost 2 months. And the reason why is that people keep on watching it. Whether they hate watching it, they are watching it out of hatred, but still contributes to the numbers. But the risk is low because it's free, right? And I know that Netflix did like our performance on the streaming platform. And we are really getting the chance to make another film based on the strength of the film, not necessarily the box office, but the quality of the film. Which is again, something that I have to. It's a great testament to the whole team that really helped me make something really, really cool.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean, for what's worth, I think John and I both enjoyed the film, and I think it's been a while since we had a commercial Malay film. I think, to be honest, that the last Malay film I saw was probably Sanif Oleg's film. And I don't think he has made a film recently. So it is really a refreshing breath of fresh air when I saw La Luna on screen.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Means a lot to me.
Kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we can move on to the final section of the conversation, which is a very fun quick fire round.
All right, let's go. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. I'll go first, then John, you go next.
Sure, no problem.
What's your favorite Singapore film?
Okay. Favorite. Okay. Best Singapore film is Ilo Ilo. Favorite, Chicken Rice War.
Oh, nice.
Do you say Chicken Rice War?
Yes.
Chicken Rice Wars. Yeah. What is it about the film that you?
It's
you
fun,
like?
man. If you think that La Luna was fun, imagine being I think I was still in film school. Watching this movie. I think Chick was running MTV at the time, so his style was very MTV like. So it's totally not. It's totally not Jack Neo. It's totally not Army Days. It's totally not Eating Air. So it felt so fresh, and I remember the experience. I watched it twice in the cinema. I told Chick this, and he didn't believe me. He thought I was being nice, but it was the truth. I really love Chicken Rice War.
Nice. I would really like to watch it. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's impossible to find, actually. I think I remember having a VCD of it. I don't know where to find it now.
It came out around the same time as another Singapore film called One Leg Kicking. If you
That's
remember
right.
that.
Yes, I remember One Leg Kicking.
Yeah.
Of course.
That film I love dearly to death, even today.
I know, I'm sure. The problem with One Leg Kicking was released also at the same time as Shaolin Soccer.
Yeah.
And it was tough because Shaolin Soccer was killing it. They even have the same goalkeeper. The goalkeeper dressed up like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
So it really felt like, oh man, yeah.
All right. Sorry,
John. Sorry. Before you ask your next question, right, Raihan, why is Ilo Ilo the best Singapore film?
I don't know, man. I'm telling you honestly, I cannot keep my eyes off the screen. The bloody film had no music at all. The things that happen in there, I'm like, what? He never flashed. As a script, it is a horrifying thing. As a script, Chen Tenwer never flashed. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing. But when you watch it, it's so captivating. I don't even know why, right? But I felt so much. I see Singapore from a totally different light. Maybe it's the fact that the DP is not Singaporean and he sees things that I've never seen before. I've never seen the bamboo poles looking so amazing before. So I don't know. Ilo Ilo to me just like woof. That's another level altogether.
Nice.
All right. Okay. What's your favorite Malay film from Singapore?
Favorite Malay film, old one. I mean, it has to be one of the P. Ramlee movies.
Yep.
So there's one called Madu Tiga, which is about a man who married 3 wives. I think it was the first time I saw a story about polygamy on screen. It's still shocking today that it was done then, but that's pretty good. I think it's one of his best films.
I would check that out. It sounds really interesting.
So just curious, why do you think that film could have been made at that period, whereas your film, went through so much controversy, especially in Malaysia?
I don't know. Somebody said that, let's talk about it in 5 years' time and see whether it holds up or not. I think the best thing about film is that it can last, way longer than TV. TV, we keep disappearing all the time, right? But, at least for the next 5 years, at least I know, you'll still be up on Netflix, hopefully, and people can still catch it and you get different things, So, I mean, I'm still getting things now from like people in Australia, in London and all that. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Right. All right, next question.
It's a film called Femina, shockingly, which is about feminism in the 90s. And I have to really admit, there are things that I've taken from Femina in La Luna that I hope is invisible, but it talks about feminism, which I thought was really, really cool for its time. Again,
nice.
Talking about patriarchy then, it's like 30 years ahead of the Me Too movement.
Femina.
Yes.
Nice. I'm looking at the IMDb now.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to check that out also. Aziz and Osman. Yeah.
That's right.
Nice. Okay. All right. Next question. What is your favorite comedy film internationally?
The Odd Couple with Walter Matthau and what's his name? Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. I can watch it every time. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Cool.
The Odd Couple by who? Gene Sachs, is it?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Nice.
Wow, that's pretty old film. Nice.
Very old film.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Your favorite horror film?
Get Out.
Nice. Get Out.
Nice.
Get Out.
Nice.
Wow, I mean, a social horror film. Wow. I mean, we'll Get Out easily.
Yeah, I think it's still good even today.
Oh, still.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For very many years,
Yeah.
It's just so, it's amazing, man.
Yeah.
How about your favorite Asian horror film?
Favorite Asian horror film? Ringu. The Ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I've not watched it in a long time, but I remember the creeps, man. It was a phenomenon in 1999. We were still in film school, so it was shocking because everybody was afraid of the TV. As nonsensical as it sounds, that Sadako comes out of the television screen, people they literally put their bed sheet over their screens at night because they're so afraid of it. That was the power of
That's really film. The power of film. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Next question. Who's your favorite wrestler?
Wow. I think Bret the Hitman Hart, maybe. Yeah. I mean, the old days one. I mean, I've not been following wrestling for a while, but and Undertaker, which is so cool. Wow. Memories.
Okay, cool. Next question, Seping. Last one.
Yeah. Maybe I'll ask one more before the last question.
Sure.
Which is the most underrated TV show currently screening on MediaCorp or MeWatch that you think audiences should check out?
Underwatched. Wow, that's tough.
Yeah, man. Underrated or underwatched. Yeah.
Currently, I'm not following much, but so I can't tell. So but if you're talking to me about the past, there's like 1,001 that I can totally answer. There's one. If I can answer this. Again, not to say this because John is here. Right after Unbeatables 1 or 2, there's a show called Heaven's Will, starring Chu Choming, and he plays a feng shui master.
Yeah.
I tell you, that one, if you all watch it, it's like freaking amazing. I never knew about feng shui. See a Malay boy watching a Chinese show, right?
Heaven's
that movie, Heaven's Will. I can't remember what's the Chinese. I can't remember, but it's Chu Chao-ming as a feng shui master,
Right.
and it's like freaking amazing, and it's really underwatched. Nobody seems to remember it, but I love it.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice, nice.
I used to watch a lot of Channel 8 dramas.
Yeah. Channel 8 dramas used to really be quite good. Yeah.
It's amazing, man. My
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
like really, really amazing.
I mean, back then, the Hong Kong girls, they really, they
Yeah.
ran the show lah. Then after that, they left.
I mean, yeah, it's tough lah. Yeah, but
Yeah.
It was the good old days. Yeah.
Nice. I'll check that out later. All right. Last question. What is your dream project? Be it TV or film?
Journey to the West trilogy, done like Lord of the Rings.
That's a great idea. I think you should bring that, because I think no one cracked that, like there's so many
tough,
versions
man.
of
It's
it.
tough.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that, again, growing up, I was very, very impressionable. I remember, so technically the first Chinese drama I ever watched, I can't remember the title. What I remember is I remember Erlangshen. So I remember Erlangshen, he's dressed in this golden armor and stuff, right? And he has this dog that is like a werewolf-looking dog or something. I thought it's so damn cool. And Erlangshen opens his third eye, right?
Yeah.
And you can see like 1,000, and I was a boy, I draw a third eye here, and I'm kind of scolded by my mom. So I was a very impressionable boy. But I love Chinese mythology. So my favorite is Monkey God. You're talking about the old dun 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 dun. So that stuff, right? So when you watch that and you realize how amazing it is, the idea of this monkey god comes out from the rock, how he fights the whole of heaven. It's like the biggest, most epic thing ever. And the fact that he was tasked to become the bodyguard to this monk. It's like, and what's the Chu Pajie was a general who becomes a pig.
Yeah.
Wow, those are such amazing characters, man.
Yep.
And every time people make these movies, they try to squeeze it in one, but in fact, it felt like it should be a massive trilogy or more.
Yeah.
So that's my dream.
Somehow, because I think in mainland China they've done countless versions in the modern age, but it never seemed to quite capture the spirit. It seems to be kind of like washed over by the CG,
Yes, exactly. That's the reason
magic
why.
is lost. Yeah.
Yes, that's why in the past, right? I'm talking about the 80s one, right? Where the CG is so limited, right? But the power that they have is strong. They showed how they focus on the script more than visuals, more than anything else. And I think that's why I feel it was way stronger then. Not to be a boomer enough to talk only about the past, but I think if you imagine that kind of script writing with the CG that they have today, it'll be like, it'll be invisible.
Nice. And with that, we would like to conclude this episode. Thank you, Raihan, so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a really enlightening experience hearing you speak about.
Come on, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me. It's really fun talking to you guys. Hope we can do this again one day.
Sure, no problem.
All the best to your next project, and when that is released, we will definitely invite you back.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
thank you.
Have a good night.